Well, today we have Julie Stewart with us, who is General Manager at Ballina Byron Gateway Airport. Thank you for joining us, Julie.
Thanks, Carly. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and look, we are at the happy time of year being Christmas, but I guess it's been a crazy 2020, and this interview series has been all about sort of sharing some of that personal journey that our airport managers and staff have had over COVID. And I guess, like, how was your first reaction? Like, you're fairly new into the role at Ballina Byron Gateway, Tamworth Airport, come in and then just getting your feet under the desk, and then COVID happened. So what was that initial reaction like for you and the team?
Well, it's interesting because I think I'd been in the role for 6 weeks, so I was still getting my head around operations at Ballina. So it was suddenly that I had to sort of change tack and revert to some of my previous knowledge and skills as to how to deal with disruption and change. So for me, it was sort of reliving some of the Sydney Airport times that I had, and drawing on some of those skills. So it was a bit daunting, but it was like going into an automatic mode for me. It was, but it was also, providing direction and advice for those around me that hadn't experienced something like that. So, it was a bit scary, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you just needed to have that level of confidence to drive people forward.
And talking to some of the Nerida and Jake at the cafe, like they had that initial worry for their staff and things like that. And what was, I guess, the airport role and your role in helping them through that, like to get into that sort of mindset and the approach that you guys took with sort of semi-closing down the airport some days and keeping it open others? Like, how did you manage that on airport stakeholder, navigation through that?
I think one of the key things was actually trying to ourselves understand exactly what was happening. What were the flights doing? What was the indications? Screening media and communications, trying to understand exactly what was happening, and then feeding it back through to our stakeholders and giving them an idea of exactly what was expected. As things were sort of slowly declining, we were pushing people to sort of have a look at what they would do if we had to put the terminal into a full closure. So mothballing things, what equipment they would shut down, anything that needed to be maintained during the shutdown, making sure everything was secure, and those kind of things. And then, and also looking at resourcing for emergency situations.
Yeah, okay. And so moving through COVID, I guess Ballina Byron has been one of the lucky airports, I guess, where you had quite a quick bounce back, and that sort of situation where there was a period where the flights were down, but then it quickly came back, given the location, the Queensland border being shut. And, you could see very quickly that Ballina Byron was going to make a really quick comeback compared to a lot of other airports. And how did you manage that rapid increase in schedule sort of from July when things started to turn around?
So we're already experiencing the Queensland border closures. So we knew that we were one of the prime locations that people were going to head to. We're heading into winter. Yeah. We had the warm beach location, so the destination was definitely attractive. So there was obvious need for people to try and push up to this region to try and escape. But just prior to that, we had problems because we didn't even have a service into the state's capital. So getting access to government officials and those that require essential travel, we had to work long and hard with airlines and government officials to try and get those services back. And then when they started to come back and the support from the federal government came through, we started to see a lot of our services starting to climb back. And even so much so that we actually had an introduction of the Qantas services that were originally going to come prior to COVID. They actually bounced onto our doorstep at the same time. So we were recognising that we were getting more and more popular. So it was quite a bumpy time.
And that sort of created some challenges in itself, hasn't it? I mean, I say we because we've been working with you guys for 10 years or so. Feels like we had more than 100% pre-COVID levels back by, I think it was October, and then sort of December, January were up sort of 30% or more on what we had the previous year in 2019, which is kind of unusual for airports during COVID. And as you said, that destination port was such a big deal there. and we had a lot of success with some of those route proposals. And how has that impacted you guys operationally, having that huge spike where, you know, up on last year?
So obviously, while we were below COVID, pre-COVID levels, you know, the resourcing was able to come back. Thankfully, a lot of the ground handlers hadn't lost their staff to other industries, but there was a need, obviously, for even more staff than what they had pre-COVID. So there was this introduction of new staff that were unaware of our airport, and some of them were perhaps even new to the industry. And I think, you know, everybody was sort of scrambling for staff left, right and centre. And the job seeker was another battle that we had to face in making sure we had resources, but then also educating these people into the way of the airport world.
So quickly.
So yeah, so you know, there was a whole education piece there, and then, you know, so there's a lot of hand holding that has to go when those things happen, and monitoring. So yeah, there was definitely constraints, and then the infrastructure itself was also trying to struggle with the influx as well, because you know, we had lumps of people coming through rather than just you know, a steady stream of people. So it was really struggling there for a long time.
No, and look, I think you guys have done an amazing job. Like, not only have you sort of bucked the trend, had more flights than you did last year at the end of COVID, and lots of new routes as well that weren't flying beforehand, and a new airline. So it's been a great story for BNK. And so looking forward into next year, what are the things that are top of the list for you to focus on? Like, obviously operations is become more of a focus because of that. How do you manage that increase, which is a good problem to have, but what are you sort of going to 2021 focused on?
Well, I mean, we've actually we pushed back a lot of our capital works because of COVID and just staying alive. But then when the influx started to come back, we sort of then had to focus on making sure that we had the operations in place to be able to support the services that were coming back in. But so now we've actually got a number of projects that we have to sort of then ramp up and reintroduce. So the things that we were looking at prior to, and a part of that is supporting the additional pressure that the infrastructure has. So next year will be a big year of project delivery and also making sure that we've got the resources that can support the operations as well.
Excellent. Well, look, no, thank you for your time today. And look, it's just such a great news story. I love being involved with the airport too. It's just such a great group of people that we've got working there, and you've done an awesome job navigating that really tough time. And I know a lot of pressure on you in particular. So well done. And I hope you get a good Christmas cocktail or two for your efforts.
Carly, thanks to you and the team at Lime. They've actually been integral to making sure that we can stay on top of what's coming at us, but also helping us develop those new routes. So a great success for both our organisations. So well done, team.
Well, drinks all round, I say. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.